You're watching France 24. It's now time for an international press review. Our flick through the world's newspapers this morning. For that, I'm joined here in studio by Elena Casas Montañez. Good morning to you, Elena. So, obviously, the economic news from that Eurozone crisis summit very much dominating the international papers as well. A 50% haircuts on bank debts for Greece. Are the Greek papers happy about that?
Well, you'd think they might be, Catherine, but no. German tanks are the new aid plan. The technocrats are a form of Nazi occupation. That's the front page headline on the left-leaning paper Eleftherio-Typa. They're, of course, talking about the announcement that financial bureaucrats from the EU are going to be in Greece from now on, more or less permanently, surveilling that Greece follows the rules that it's meant to be putting in place. Of course, for the Greeks, this is incredibly controversial. It's not the first time Greek papers have compared the Germans telling them what to do about the economy to the Nazi occupation, but nevertheless, it's pretty strong language.
Strong language there, yeah.
Yes, the Cathy Marini, which is the more right-leaning paper, isn't quite so strong, but they do say that in signing up to this deal, their government has lost all legitimacy. They say it's the end of a democratic era that began with the end of their military dictatorship in 1974, and now whatever government comes next in Greece is just going to do what the EU Troika tells them to. So they say that when democracy is restored next in Greece, that could be years down the line, and it will be under a very different form.
That's a very interesting reaction there coming out of Greece. Very different. We see the European leaders hailing the deal, but not the case there. Now, the French papers had a lot to say about the idea of fiscal union around Europe. That's not gone down very well, has it, in the Wall Street Journal?
The fiscal union delusion is the headline of their editorial. They've got a cartoon there where we see all the European Union leaders looking across the Atlantic with big telescopes, obviously trying to copy the way that the US fiscal and monetary union between states works. But the Wall Street Journal says that's not actually the lesson they should be taking. They say that even though they have one currency and one tax policy, there's still some US states like California that are doing very badly financially, while others like Texas are doing very well. That's because there's still some differences in regulation, and that's the model that Europeans should be copying, because they say that without competitivity, then you can't create jobs or wealth.
OK, let's look at the big economy at the heart of the Eurozone, Germany. How are the German press reacting to this?
Why can't Germans respect Angela Merkel a bit more? That's what Die Welt is asking today. They think she deserves to be praised for having imposed what Germany wants on the rest of the EU leaders, but that's not what German public opinion is saying, according to them. They say that this Euro crisis could even lose her party the next election because she's been so determined to keep Europe together that she's made herself unpopular with lots of the German public who don't want to spend their money on countries like Spain, Italy and Greece, and think that if they can't behave in terms of budget, they should just be allowed to fall.
Yep, Angela Merkel has been facing a real battle at home. Now, the British paper, The Independent, is being perhaps rather cynical, doesn't think this is going to be the last all-night European crisis summit. We have seen several in the past, of course. They think there's more to come.
Europe is still living on borrowed time. That's their headline. They say whatever was decided last night will only put off the next crisis summit by a few weeks at best. Inside, they're having more of a look at Italy. Let's have a look at their cartoon where you can see the Eurozone leaders balancing on the edge of a cliff in a bus. And they've got Silvio Berlusconi on the end who's trying to chop off the edge of the bus with a saw. They basically say that because he still can't come up with a concrete enough budget plan to make Brussels pleased, eventually he's going to be responsible for splitting up the Eurozone.
Yeah, well, the austerity measures he's managed to pass are already pretty controversial, aren't they?
Yes, of course, they sparked a punch-up in the Italian parliament yesterday. So we've got some quite surprising pictures of that in The Independent. And if we look at the Italian paper La Repubblica, they actually say that the deal that was finally sorted out between Berlusconi and his ally and now sort of rival Umberto Bossi might have a little bit more to it than we've realised. They say, this is exclusive to them, so it's not confirmed, but they say he's promised to step down next January and call a fresh election, which might be good news for the xenophobic Liga Nord.
Very interesting indeed. Thanks very much indeed, Elena Casas Montañez there with our international press review. Do stay tuned to France 24, the latest international news coming up very soon.
Two in a canoe. Or maybe a few hundred partying in Poznan. That one girl at the seaside. Or those few in the yacht on the bay. This lot of young people in Gdansk. Or maybe this one with the bison will convince you. 8 scouts, 2 on a wall. 5,602 guitarists in Wrocław. In Warsaw, 50,000 football fans. Actors in Krakow. How many Poles does it take to convince you to come to Poland?
Feel invited. Is it time to expand and open offices in Sao Paulo and London? A long-term lease will be like a short, tight noose. And furnishing those will be as much fun as a tax audit. You guys always give me such great negative feedback.
Fear and doubt holding you back? Now there's a new way to work to minimize risk. With Regis, you get fully equipped offices without a long-term lease, a receptionist, conference rooms, and over 1,100 locations around the world. Regis is the new way to work. Call now and get 2 months free.
Lights, camera, activist. With a new film on the Black Power movement about to hit the screens, Hollywood's most ardent champion of worthy causes is my guest. Join me as I meet the lethal weapon icon, Danny Glover.
Don't miss Culture. Tuesday, 5:15 p.m. Paris time, here on France 24.